and I'm going to tell you my what goes around comes around story. My mum, when she was 15, was going home, and as she walked in her street, all the kids in the street started telling her that your dad's dead. My mum started to run with this fear that, why are they telling me this? And she ran, and she gets home, and unfortunately it's the truth. Her father, my grandfather, had been crushed by a wall. He was a fire officer in the war, in the Blitz, and the building was on fire. It was up a ladder and it caved in on him. My mum, absolutely heartbroken, arrives with her mother, my grandmother, and the family. Now, things changed completely for her that day in her life, because she won a scholarship to go to St Martin's in the Field, which was a fantastic school for her. Unfortunately, having 5 younger siblings with no breadwinner in the house, she had to go out and find it and get the money to look after the family. What was so incredible, the neighbour who lived next door to them had a factory, and he created a job for my mother. He made it up. He said he needed a PA, and my mum became his PA. And for many, many years he looked after her, knowing he was supporting this family. And he was incredible. Years and years passed, and eventually myself grew up, and I wanted to create my own studio. So I managed to get my studio, and now all of a sudden I need an assistant. So I looked at so many different people with their portfolio, and there was one little girl who was remarkable, and she stood out because she was different, with difference, and not for the sake of different sake, but really had something special. Anyway, my mum and dad came to the studio one day to see how we was getting on, and I introduced my mother to Leslie Lamb, my assistant, my new assistant, and my mother said, what a charming girl. And at the end of the day, Leslie left, and my mum and I, we were talking, and she said, that's amazing, that. It's a very unusual name, Lamb. She said, let me tell you a story. She told me the story about how this man gave her her first job, called Robert Lamb. Robert Lamb employed my mother. And I said, oh, that's remarkable. The next day when Leslie came in, I said to Leslie, Leslie, does your family own a factory? She said, well, yes, we still do. It was my grandfather's factory. I said, what's your grandfather's name? She said, Robert Lamb. Robert Lamb was the person who employed my mother. And I employed his great-granddaughter. So what goes around really does come around. How amazing is that? My mother's first job and his granddaughter's first job. It's because of that. It truly is. Happy Easter. Thank you.